Ladies, here's something I want you to really take in today. The way you talk to a man is not just about words, it's about energy, confidence, and the message you send about who you are. A high-value woman doesn't need to chase, convince, or prove her worth. She communicates in a way that makes a man respect her, adore her, and want to step up. Too many women think attraction is about being nice or agreeable. But in reality, the women who capture a man's heart long-term are those who know how to express themselves with warmth, boundaries, and self-respect. Talking to a man isn't about impressing him. It's about inviting him into your world while showing you're already complete in yourself. When a high-value woman speaks, there's no rush in her words. She doesn't feel the need to fill every second with noise, nor does she stumble over herself to be heard. Instead, she allows space, silence, and pauses because she knows that confidence isn't loud, it's steady. Men notice this immediately. A calm voice communicates that she's comfortable with herself. She's not trying to prove anything, and she's not seeking validation. That presence is powerful because it makes the man lean in, listen more closely, and respect what she has to say. Calm confidence isn't about being emotionless, it's about groundedness. When emotions run high, maybe he says something that irritates her, or there's a moment of tension. She doesn't explode or panic. Instead, she keeps her composure. She responds rather than reacts. This not only keeps the conversation healthy, but it also signals to him that she's someone who can handle challenges with grace. And that, to a man, is deeply attractive because it shows emotional maturity, not just surface-level charm. Think of it this way: when a woman is nervous, apologizing too much, or over-explaining every little thing, she unintentionally sends the message that she doubts herself. But when she speaks clearly and with certainty, even if she says something as simple as, "I'd like sparkling water, please," it carries weight. It's not about the words, it's about the energy behind them. Men can feel the difference between someone who speaks from fear and someone who speaks from inner strength. Confidence in speech also comes from body language. A high-value woman maintains eye contact. She doesn't fidget with her phone, and her posture reflects poise. The way she delivers her words tells him that she values herself. And here's the truth: when a man senses that a woman values herself, he instinctively begins to value her more too. Communication is as much about non-verbal cues as it is about actual sentences. There's also a certain rhythm in how she talks. She doesn't rush to answer every question immediately, nor does she try to fill in every gap. She knows silence can be powerful. It gives weight to her words and keeps him engaged. When she pauses, she gives him space to absorb her thoughts, which creates deeper connection. In contrast, when someone rushes through every sentence, it creates pressure, almost as if the conversation is a race. Calm confidence slows everything down in a way that feels magnetic. Ultimately, calm confidence communicates one thing above all: I know who I am, and I am enough. That energy is irresistible because it removes pressure from the interaction. Instead of trying to perform or impress, she simply shows up as herself, steady, grounded, and unapologetically authentic. This draws men in not because she's trying hard, but because she doesn't need to try at all. Playful humor is one of the most magnetic traits a high-value woman brings into her conversations with men. Instead of taking every word literally or responding with heaviness, she knows how to sprinkle in lightness. This doesn't mean she's telling jokes like a comedian or trying to force laughter. It means she's relaxed enough to tease, to play, and to enjoy the moment. That playfulness creates a spark that men find irresistible. It shifts the energy from just another conversation to something that feels fun, alive, and memorable. A high-value woman understands that laughter builds connection faster than almost anything else. When she teases him about a silly habit, makes a witty observation, or even laughs at her own little mistakes, she shows that she's not uptight. This kind of humor isn't about making him the punchline. It's about creating a shared moment of joy. Men love this because it removes the pressure to be perfect and makes them feel like they're with someone who can turn ordinary situations into something exciting. Playful humor also shows confidence. A woman who can joke around without fear of judgment reveals that she's secure in herself. For example, if she trips on her words, instead of turning red and panicking, she might laugh and say, "Well, clearly my brain is running faster than my mouth." That lightness makes him feel at ease. It also signals that she doesn't take herself too seriously, which is incredibly refreshing in a world where many conversations feel scripted or overly guarded. Another subtle but powerful part of playful humor is the gentle art of teasing. When done with warmth and a smile, teasing shows interest without being too heavy. If he brags about something small, she might reply, "Oh wow, are you trying to impress me with your world-class coffee making skills?" This isn't cruel, it's flirty fun and keeps the interaction dynamic. It sets the tone that she won't just flatter him endlessly, but she'll challenge him in a way that feels engaging. Humor also helps a high-value woman navigate awkward moments. Instead of letting silence feel uncomfortable or allowing tension to build unnecessarily, she can use a quick playful comment to lighten the air. For instance, if there's a pause in conversation, she might smile and say, "Well, this is either the most comfortable silence ever, or you're planning your escape strategy." Humor like this breaks the ice, makes him laugh, and reminds both people that connection isn't about perfection, it's about ease. At its core, playful humor communicates vibrancy. It shows that she enjoys life and knows how to create joy in her interactions. Men are drawn to women who make them feel good, and laughter is one of the fastest ways to build emotional attraction. A high-value woman doesn't rely on looks alone. She uses humor as her secret weapon, weaving fun into the conversation so that every moment feels a little brighter when she's around. A high-value woman knows the difference between empty flattery and a genuine compliment. She doesn't just say, "You look nice," because it's the polite thing to say. Instead, she notices details that reflect effort, character, or uniqueness. For example, she might say, "I really admire how passionate you get when you talk about your work," or "That was thoughtful of you to check in on your friend." Compliments like these land deeply because they're about more than appearances. They're about who he is. Men crave this kind of recognition because it makes them feel seen on a level that goes beyond surface attraction. When she compliments, she's not doing it to gain approval or make him like her more. Instead, her words come from authenticity. This matters because men can feel the difference. When a compliment feels forced or generic, it loses its power. But when she pays attention and highlights something meaningful, he feels valued. That intentionality sets her apart from others who might compliment just to fill space in conversation. It shows that she listens, observes, and takes genuine interest. Intentional compliments also encourage a man to bring out his best qualities. If she compliments his consistency, he feels proud of being reliable. If she notices his humor, he feels motivated to keep making her laugh. It's a subtle but powerful way of reinforcing positive behavior without manipulation. Men love when a woman appreciates effort, because effort is often overlooked. By pointing it out, she sends the message. "I notice the little things." That acknowledgement makes him want to do more. Another important aspect of intentional compliments is balance. A high-value woman doesn't shower a man with constant praise. She knows that if she overdoes it, her words will lose meaning. Instead, she spaces out her compliments, giving them weight. This balance makes her appreciation feel rare and valuable, which keeps him listening closely. Every time she gives a compliment, it feels like a gift, not just words thrown casually into the air. There's also an art in how she delivers the compliment. It's not rushed or awkward. She makes eye contact, smiles, and speaks with sincerity. This delivery turns a simple statement into something impactful. For instance, instead of quickly saying, "You're smart," she might pause and say, "You know, I really respect the way you think through things carefully before you answer. That's rare." The deliberate tone shows she means it, which leaves a lasting impression. Ultimately, intentional compliments go beyond looks, achievements, or material things. They touch on values, character, and effort. And when a woman can reflect back to a man the parts of himself he's most proud of, it creates a bond. He feels not just liked, but understood. And that feeling of being truly seen is what makes him want to stay close to her and keep investing in the connection. One of the most defining qualities of a high-value woman is her ability to say no with grace. She doesn't feel guilty for protecting her time, her energy, or her boundaries. Many women fall into the trap of saying yes to everything because they fear rejection or disapproval, but this often leads to resentment and exhaustion. A high-value woman understands that her no is just as important as her whys. By using it wisely, she shows that she has standards and that her time isn't something to be taken for granted. This instantly sets her apart in a man's eyes. When she says no, it doesn't come from a place of anger or arrogance. It comes from self-respect. If a man suggests something she's not comfortable with, she calmly declines without over-explaining. This communicates strength. For example, if he asks to meet late at night and she prefers daytime dates, she might respond, "No, that doesn't work for me, but I'd be happy to meet earlier." This shows firmness without hostility. It's a powerful message. I honor myself and I invite you to do the same. The power of no also creates clarity in relationships. When she draws the line, a man immediately understands what she values. There's no confusion, no mixed signals. And here's the truth. Men secretly admire women who are not afraid to set boundaries. While it might feel uncomfortable in the moment, it actually earns long-term respect. A woman who always says yes out of fear of losing someone usually ends up losing herself. But a woman who says no when necessary shows that she will never compromise her worth. Saying no also prevents unnecessary drama. Instead of agreeing to things she doesn't want and then holding silent resentment, she addresses it up front. This keeps communication honest and relationships healthy. For instance, if she doesn't want to talk late into the night when she has work early, she won't push herself just to please him. She'll politely say, "No, I need rest tonight, let's talk tomorrow," far from pushing him away. This often makes him admire her discipline and see her as someone who respects her own life. Another subtle aspect of using no is that it makes her yes more powerful. When a woman says yes to everything, it loses meaning because it feels automatic. But when she selectively agrees, her acceptance feels like a real choice. When she says yes to spending time with him, it's not because she's desperate or has nothing else to do. It's because she truly wants to. That makes her attention and presence far more valuable in his eyes. At the heart of it, no is not rejection, it's direction. It tells him who she is, what she values, and how she expects to be treated. Instead of fearing it, she embraces it as a tool for alignment. Men may not always like hearing no in the moment, but deep down they respect a woman who knows herself enough to use it. And in time, they realize that her boundaries don't push them away. They draw them closer because her self-respect inspires their respect. A high-value woman understands that vulnerability is not weakness. It's actually a sign of courage. She knows that opening up and showing parts of her inner world can create intimacy, but she doesn't confuse sharing with oversharing. Instead of unloading her entire life story in the first few conversations, she reveals herself slowly and with intention. This balance makes her intriguing. A man feels he's earning the right to know her more deeply, rather than being overwhelmed with everything at once. When she shares her vulnerability, it comes from a grounded place. For example, if she talks about a past struggle, she doesn't present it as an open wound, but as an experience she grew from. She might say, "There was a time when I struggled with confidence, but it taught me how to build myself up again." This way, her story isn't about seeking pity. It's about showing resilience. Men admire this balance because it shows she can be both open and strong at the same time. What makes this balance so powerful is the emotional safety it creates. A woman who's completely guarded may seem mysterious, but over time she feels unreachable. On the other hand, a woman who's too vulnerable too soon can overwhelm a man and make him feel pressured to carry her emotions. A high-value woman avoids both extremes. She shares enough to invite connection, but holds enough back to protect her dignity and emotional well-being. This makes her presence both inviting and inspiring. Strength in vulnerability also means she doesn't hide her emotions out of fear of being judged. If something excites her, she expresses it fully. If something hurts her, she acknowledges it calmly. She doesn't pretend to be unaffected just to appear cool. This kind of honesty is refreshing because it communicates authenticity. Men don't want perfection, they want realness. By allowing her emotions to show without letting them control her, she demonstrates emotional maturity. Another key part of this balance is self-responsibility. She doesn't place her happiness or healing entirely in a man's hands. For instance, if she's had a difficult day, she might say, "It's been rough, but I'm doing my best to handle it." This signals that while she's letting him in, she's not expecting him to fix everything. That independence wrapped in openness makes a man feel both trusted and respected rather than burdened. At the core, balancing vulnerability with strength makes her unforgettable. It shows that she's human with depth and feelings, but also that she has the resilience to stand tall. This mixture of softness and stability is what draws men in. It makes them feel emotionally connected without feeling overwhelmed. She becomes the kind of woman who's not only attractive, but also deeply magnetic because she's real, grounded, and courageous enough to be both open and strong. One of the most captivating qualities of a high-value woman is her ability to listen with full presence. In a world where so many people are distracted, checking their phones, half engaged in conversation, or thinking about what they're going to say next, she stands out by giving her undivided attention. When a man speaks, she isn't just hearing words, she's absorbing meaning, emotion, and intention. This makes him feel important, valued, and understood, which is one of the deepest human needs in any relationship. Listening with presence also builds trust. A man feels safe opening up when he knows she's not going to interrupt, dismiss, or judge him. Many men aren't used to being truly listened to. Often they feel like they need to impress or perform in conversation. But when a high-value woman looks him in the eyes, nods thoughtfully, and responds in a way that shows she's genuinely paying attention, he experiences a rare sense of being fully seen. That safety encourages him to be more vulnerable and authentic with her. It's important to understand that presence goes beyond just silence. It's not about sitting there without speaking. It's about active listening. A high-value woman asks follow-up questions, reflects back what she's heard, and shows genuine curiosity. For instance, if he's talking about a project at work, she doesn't just say, "That's nice." Instead, she might ask, "What part of that excites you the most?" This makes the conversation deeper and shows that she truly cares about his perspective, not just filling the air with chatter. Another reason her listening is magnetic is because it shows emotional intelligence. She's not just focused on the facts of what he's saying, but also on how he's feeling as he says it. She can pick up on his tone, his pauses, and the little details that reveal his emotions. By acknowledging those feelings, she shows empathy. For example, if he mentions being stressed about something, she might say, "That sounds like a lot to handle. I can see why it's weighing on you." These kinds of responses make him feel validated. What's powerful is that listening with presence doesn't mean she loses her own voice. It's not about being passive. Rather, it creates balance. She gives him the space to share, and when it's her turn to speak, her words carry even more impact because he feels heard first. That reciprocity builds connection. Men often find themselves wanting to talk more, to share more, because her attentive energy draws them out. It makes the conversation flow naturally instead of feeling like a competition to be heard. Ultimately, listening with presence is an act of respect. It communicates that she values not just his words, but him as a person. And when a man feels truly listened to, he associates that feeling of peace and significance with her. That's why so many men describe the woman they fall for as easy to talk to. It's not about saying all the right things. It's about creating the space where he feels like what he says actually matters. A high-value woman understands the difference between expressing her needs and issuing demands. She knows that ultimatums create resistance, while standards create attraction. Instead of saying, "If you don't do this, I'm leaving," she communicates her values in a calm and clear way. For example, she might say, "Consistency matters to me. It makes me feel safe in a relationship." This approach invites him to rise to her level rather than making him feel cornered. Men respond better to inspiration than to control, and she knows how to use her words to encourage, not threaten. When she speaks with standards, it shows that she knows her worth. She doesn't settle for behaviors that disrespect her, but she also doesn't feel the need to argue or nag to prove her point. Her standards speak for themselves. If a man doesn't meet them, she doesn't force the situation. She gracefully steps back, trusting that someone who aligns with her values will show up. This quiet confidence is powerful because it sends the message, "I know what I deserve, and I'm not afraid to walk away if it's not there." Men respect women who have clear standards because it demonstrates self-respect. A woman without boundaries often ends up in situations where she feels taken for granted, while a woman with standards naturally sets the tone for how she will be treated. For instance, if he cancels plans repeatedly, she won't lash out or beg for his attention. Instead, she might calmly say, "I value reliability. If that's hard for you right now, maybe this isn't the best time." This communicates strength without hostility. What makes this even more attractive is the balance of kindness and firmness. A high-value woman doesn't shame or belittle a man when he falls short. She simply states her expectations with warmth. Her tone says, "I know my needs are valid, and I trust you're capable of meeting them." This not only makes him feel respected, but also challenges him to step up without feeling attacked. It's a subtle yet powerful way of bringing out the best in him. Speaking with standards also prevents resentment from building in relationships. Instead of holding things in until they explode, she addresses issues early with clarity. For example, she won't stay silent about something that bothers her just to keep the peace. Instead, she'll gently say, "When you go quiet for days, it makes me feel disconnected. I value consistent communication." But doing this, she's transparent about her needs without making it a fight. This keeps the relationship healthy and transparent. At its core, speaking with standards instead of ultimatums shows emotional maturity. It communicates that she's not trying to control or punish. She's simply creating alignment. She knows she can't force someone to meet her standards, but she also knows she doesn't have to lower them to keep someone around. And that mindset is magnetic, because it shows she's not chasing, she's choosing. A high-value woman knows that the words she speaks shape the energy she brings into every interaction. She is mindful not to fill conversations with gossip or constant negativity, because she understands that such talk drains connection rather than builds it. Instead of tearing others down or endlessly complaining, she chooses words that uplift, inspire, and bring lightness to the moment. This makes her presence refreshing because men feel energized around her rather than weighed down. When she avoids gossip, it doesn't mean she ignores reality. It means she refuses to feed into destructive habits. If a friend's name comes up, she resists the temptation to criticize or speculate. She might shift the conversation by highlighting something positive or steering it toward meaningful topics. This shows emotional intelligence because she knows that how someone talks about others often reflects how they'll eventually talk about you. Men notice this, and it makes them trust her more deeply. Negativity, too, is something she carefully manages. Life isn't perfect, and she doesn't pretend it is. But she doesn't dwell on problems or spread a cloud of pessimism in every interaction. Instead of saying, "Everything always goes wrong for me," she might say, "Today was tough, but I'm figuring it out." This shift in perspective communicates resilience. A man sees that she acknowledges challenges, but doesn't let them define her spirit. That balance makes her both relatable and admirable. Another reason she avoids gossip and negativity is because she knows it keeps the focus on growth, not drama. A high-value woman loves conversations that explore ideas, dreams, values, and passions. She brings curiosity and positivity into dialogue, which creates deeper emotional connection. For example, instead of talking endlessly about what someone else did wrong, she might ask, "What inspires you lately?" This change in tone elevates the conversation and makes her stand out as someone who adds value to his life. Men are naturally drawn to women who make them feel good in their presence. If a man associates her with constant complaints, criticism, or gossip, he may enjoy her temporarily but won't feel nourished in the long term. On the other hand, if he associates her with positivity and uplifting energy, he begins to crave her presence. He starts to see her as someone who brings peace and joy into his world, and that is far more powerful than surface-level attraction. At the heart of this quality is self-awareness. She doesn't just avoid gossip and negativity for the sake of others. She avoids it because she values her own peace. She knows that what she chooses to speak about reflects her mindset, her standards, and her emotional health. By protecting her words, she protects her energy. And that makes her not only attractive, but magnetic, because her presence feels like a safe, uplifting space that men want to return to again and again. A high-value woman knows that gratitude is one of the most powerful ways to deepen connection. She doesn't take small gestures for granted, nor does she overlook effort just because it seems ordinary. When a man opens the door, remembers something she mentioned, or simply shows up on time, she acknowledges it. Her gratitude doesn't have to be dramatic. A warm smile, a thoughtful "thank you," or a genuine compliment goes a long way. This simple act makes him feel valued, and it reinforces that his efforts matter. Expressing gratitude generously also shows her mindset. She focuses on what's good rather than fixating on what's missing. If he plans a date, she doesn't complain that it wasn't fancier or longer. She thanks him for the thought and effort behind it. That appreciation makes him feel encouraged to do more. Men often respond to gratitude by doubling their efforts because they want to feel that what they do has an impact. It becomes a positive cycle where appreciation fuels action and action fuels deeper appreciation. Gratitude is powerful because it highlights her awareness. A high-value woman pays attention to details, and she lets him know she notices them. For example, if he picks a restaurant that fits her taste, she doesn't just say, "That was nice." She might say, "I love that you remembered I enjoy quiet places. That really meant a lot." This kind of intentional gratitude makes her words more meaningful. Instead of sounding like politeness, her thanks sound like recognition, and men crave that feeling of being truly seen. Another important element is that her gratitude is balanced. She doesn't overdo it or make it sound like she's desperate. She thanks him without putting him on a pedestal. This balance keeps her appreciation authentic rather than performative. Men can tell the difference between a woman who is genuinely thankful and one who is trying too hard to please. The high-value woman strikes this balance effortlessly, which makes her gratitude feel sincere and grounding. Gratitude also shapes the tone of the relationship. When she expresses appreciation, it creates an atmosphere of positivity rather than criticism. Men often fear relationships where they'll only hear what they're doing wrong. But when they experience a woman who notices what's right, it motivates them to continue contributing to that positive energy. Gratitude becomes the language that builds rather than breaks the connection. At its core, her gratitude reflects her abundance mindset. She doesn't live in constant dissatisfaction or entitlement. She sees value in effort and acknowledges it openly. This makes her not only attractive, but also deeply nourishing to be around. A man feels uplifted in her presence because he knows she doesn't just notice what's missing. She celebrates what's already there. That energy makes him want to stay close, because gratitude transforms ordinary interactions into meaningful connections. A high-value woman understands the art of not giving everything away all at once. She knows that mystery is not about playing games, but about pacing the relationship in a way that keeps both people intrigued. Instead of sharing every detail of her life in one sitting, she reveals herself gradually, like turning the pages of a captivating book. This approach keeps a man curious and eager to learn more about her, because he realizes there's always more depth waiting to be discovered. Leaving him wanting more also applies to conversations. She doesn't feel pressured to drag out every interaction or exhaust every topic in one go. If she senses the energy winding down, she's not afraid to end on a high note with warmth and confidence. A simple, "I've really enjoyed talking to you. Let's continue this another time," creates anticipation for the next encounter. Men love this because it leaves them with positive energy and the desire to reach out again instead of feeling drained. Another powerful element is how she balances giving and holding back. She shares enough to be engaging, open, and real, but she doesn't oversaturate the moment. If she tells a story, she might leave out a small detail that makes him curious to ask later. If she laughs at one of his jokes, she might gently tease him and move on, leaving him wondering what she'll say next time. This balance keeps the dynamic playful and magnetic rather than predictable. She also values her own time, which adds to this effect. A high-value woman doesn't linger endlessly just to fill space. She has her own priorities and goals. When she steps away from a conversation or date, she does so gracefully, showing that she enjoys his company but also has a full life outside of it. This independence creates respect, and it makes her even more appealing because it signals that she's not dependent on him for entertainment or validation. Another subtle but powerful aspect is that leaving him wanting more keeps the emotional momentum alive. Instead of overwhelming him with intensity or constant availability, she allows space for him to miss her. Men often fall deeper in love during the moments they're apart, reflecting on the time they shared and anticipating the next one. By not overextending herself, she creates that space for desire to grow naturally. At its heart, leaving him wanting more is about self-control and self-worth. She doesn't need to overprove, overshare, or overstay. She trusts that the right man will appreciate the balance of openness and restraint. This trust makes her presence magnetic, because when she's there, she's fully there. And when she steps away, she leaves behind a lasting impression that makes him crave more of her energy.